Feeling stuck or unfulfilled? Searching for more meaning in your work and life? Wondering what's next? You're not alone, and you're in the right place. This is Focus on Why, the podcast that turns reflection into action. I'm Amy Rowlandson, and each week I dive deep with guests who've chosen to live and work with purpose. Together we explore what drives them, shapes their decisions, and gives their life meaning. Through real stories and honest conversations, you'll discover how to gain clarity, make confident choices, and create a life that truly matters. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Before we start, have you read my book, Focus on Why, Create a Purposeful Way of Life? It's an uplifting guide to living with purpose, clarity, and meaning, and it's co-authored with my late grandfather. Available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook, all the links you need to purchase your copy today are in the show notes. Today, on Focus on Why, I am joined by James Ainsworth. Hello, James. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you.
Very good. Well, we were introduced by Steve Whitten. So, Steve is a previous guest, and I'm always very grateful for introductions. So, let's kick this on off and say, what is it that you're focusing on right now?
So I've got a couple of focuses at the moment. One is building, I suppose, building my purpose in regards to life to do with I hate calling it business. I prefer calling it purpose, definitely, because I feel like sometimes the business, when I say the word business, it almost means that kind of solid idea that I need to have marketing, I need to have sales. But when I come to speak about my purpose, for me, there's this level of the reason I'm here, probably my soul's here, that I'm here alive today. And the other part is I'm focusing on meeting, as they say, the one. That they are my focuses at this moment in time.
I love that. And I love the reframe of business to purpose. It's a great reframe. And I think I might adopt that myself because it makes so much more sense when you talk about my purpose. It feels a very different perspective to approaching things. Tell me why you've got this reframe, James.
Well, I've tried to have a business since 2018. But one thing I've realized is that as I say the word business, it just inside my body, there's a disconnect. And this disconnect it almost feels like I have to do something, or there's this level of that it feels very stiff. I don't know how to explain it, and it's thinking about the question now. It just feels very stiff. Like, so let's say the word business, it feels like, oh, do I really have to do it? And there's almost this resistance to doing stuff. Whereas when I say the word purpose or sole purpose, I feel there's a connection for me there, and I feel like as long as I stay with the idea of purpose or sole purpose, I it allows me to not have to do the typical way of running a business. There's this level of what I'm doing at the moment of allowing, so being in this place of presence, being in this place of allowing stuff to come in, and then utilizing inspired action of whatever needs to be done, taking the steps then.
So there's probably at some point, we're not going to go there in this conversation, but there's probably a limiting belief that you have around the word business. But I'll leave that there. There's something there that you've got connected in your own mind and belief system that has a negative connotation that prevents the freedom and the inspiration coming in when you say that word.
Yeah. It's well, you said the word freedom. That kind of links into purpose, that being able to be free. So one of my goals in life is to run my purpose or business as a way where I can travel and do what I want when I want, but leading a life of helping others.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other focus, the meeting of the one. Tell us about that, James.
Oh, that's a loaded question, isn't it?
Well, you
So
mentioned it, you brought it to the conversation.
nine. So the last 9 years, I've been this path journey of personal and spiritual development. And it all came about because I went into a relationship and it ended not on bad terms, but after 9 months, I went through this breakup, this heartbreak, and I made a commitment to myself after the relationship breakup that I would never be in that place again. And so ever since then, I've been on this journey of just completely changing my beliefs, my growth, how I respond to life, becoming more present. And I've over the last 9 years been through probably 3 or 4 different relationships. And what I've come to understand are some of my old patterns with regards to anxious attachment style to do with rejection, abandonment. And it was in January that I went through did this course with a friend of mine called Led by Love. And as part of so it was 3 days, but 3 different Sundays. And on the last Sunday, we went through this phase of connecting with somebody from the past who had not done you wrong, but you felt there's a disconnect. And I picked my past partner, my first one, and it allowed, so somebody was there as witness listening to what we were saying. And what came up initially was all these anger and frustration and overwhelm and really all this heartbreak. But then it shifted into this idea of gratitude, of being thankful, being loving kind of thing. And then what actually then happened was that all of a sudden, all my other partners and all the other people who had been in my life who had perhaps caused me heartache or something like that, or rejection, came in. And it almost felt like this huge so it started off one person and then everybody came in. And then eventually it shifted into this idea of forgiveness. And it felt really real, as though my body was like, it felt like it had released a lot of my old patterning. And so since then, I've been tuning in to the frequency of love and allowing myself to be in that state of love and kind of, yeah, attracting that person to come in.
I love it.
So that's really, yeah, where I've been on regards to that. And there's so much to do with that stuff. It's unreal.
Yeah. Well, it was Alfred Lord Tennyson who said, "'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all." And I think your journey here is testament to that, in terms of look what you have now since learned and understood about yourself and life, having gone through experiencing the heartbreak.
Mm. Yeah, and it's been a hard 9 years, but I feel like the harder path, or the path of going through heartbreak, is actually one of the best paths that I probably could have gone on, because it's helped me to initially, I think I kind of created a kind of barrier around it, but then allow myself to feel more love, to be able to witness other people, to be able to really connect with on a deeper level with different people, has allowed me to release that sense of a barrier and allow me to really connect more deeply with not just other people, but more deeply with myself.
So, what has been this journey that you've taken yourself on in terms of purpose, James?
So purpose, it's been, I grew up on a farm, the farming background. I went to university, did a degree in chemistry. I'd been traveling, that kind of thing. But it's only really been, I felt, the last 9 years that I've noticed myself, that I've noticed this massive change. And so obviously part and parcel of my purpose is to help people to kind of follow that path of growth, that path of stepping into their darkness, stepping into the unknown, and being able to not push it away, but also to befriend it. Because when we befriend these parts of ourselves, suddenly they become, rather than, I feel like when you're trying to push this kind of stuff away, so say for example you've got anger or frustration or heartbreak and you try and push it away, you meet head to head and you're clashing with this part of yourself. Whereas when you allow this part to come in and you allow this part to be loved and you allow this part to speak its own truth, it starts to align with yourself rather than disalign. And so part and parcel of my path has been to welcome in all these parts and to not get upset if I start feeling anxious, if I start feeling fearful, if I start feeling like I don't know what I'm doing, but almost to accept this part as this part is me. And so by pushing it away, what am I saying to myself? That I'm not worthy, that I'm not good enough, that I'm disconnect from myself. But when you allow this part to come in, you start to connect yourself more deeply, which allows you to step into this way of understanding yourself in a better way. And so my purpose is to help people to understand that life's always going to throw you curveballs, but if you allow yourself to step into these curveballs, to step into this fear, to step into whatever it is, you're going to learn some wisdom, divine wisdom. And I feel like all these different parts of ourselves, the good and the bad, the shadow and the light, are there to teach us how to really connect to ourselves, to bring ourselves back home, I think.
And what would James of 9 years ago have thought about this perspective that you now hold?
I reckon James of 9 years ago would have been quite fearful of what do you think you're doing? What's going on? Kind of, you can't be doing that. You can't be befriending fear. Because I feel like there's a level of not understanding back then that of accepting every part of ourselves. And probably James of 9 years ago probably thought that this part isn't actually me. So push it away. And I think in the world today we see so much anger and fear and all different kinds of emotions and feelings, but people almost project these feelings either onto other people, or you see it on Facebook groups and you can see people voicing their anger, and rather than accepting this and loving this part, they're actually pushing it away. And the problem with pushing it away is it actually gets louder and stronger, and so you end up having more of a fight until you probably have a burnout or just hit a brick wall.
So I'm hearing quite a few strong values in what you've shared. We've got connection, freedom, gratitude, forgiveness, love. They're big values. Are they your core values or do you have different ones?
So I know freedom is my core value because I relish the idea of going out and being free. And I suppose I'm also an Aquarian, and Aquariums love freedom. Connection, I don't think connection is a value of mine, but I know it lies deeply ingrained inside myself. Gratitude, no, but I feel like, in fact, look, this morning I pulled a couple of cards to give me assistance, and it said magnetism by gratitude. So it's there, but it feels like gratitude's something that I probably need to do more and more, because I feel like being in that state of gratitude allows you to be in that state of freedom, that state of forgiveness. Yeah, that's what feels right coming through right now. So yeah, some of them are, some of them aren't.
So what I hear is, and I when I work with people and talk to them about their values, when we're eliciting them, there's a big difference between the roots to a core value and the core values themselves. So as you just beautifully illustrated, you've got your connection and gratitude, which are your roots to freedom and forgiveness.
Yeah, that definitely feels right. It feels like, because for me, just the idea of being free is almost that level of presence, that level of connection to something greater than ourselves. And I feel like the more that I step into that freedom, the easier life becomes. I notice at this moment in time, I currently have two jobs while building a business or purpose, and it's firefighting and farming, and it almost feels like I'm trapped because of having, I suppose, this idea. Maybe it's a belief, maybe I'm stuck in one place. For me, that isn't really freedom. And so there has to be, and this is why I'm building this place, this purpose, to be able to help other people so that I can have the ability to travel, to be free.
And with freedom, I whenever I speak to someone, it's always freedom to, or freedom with, or freedom from, or freedom for. What does your freedom link to?
I feel like my freedom is freedom to my soul essence. And I expand on that a little bit more. So I feel like when we come into this world, we are conditioned through our parents' beliefs and what we've picked up from them over the years, but also to do with the society. And so I feel like the more that we come back to ourselves and allow ourselves to tune in with who we truly are, the more I feel we're letting go of those external beliefs. And I feel like the more, sometimes I've gone through this phase of my own life where I've been doing. Whereas now I feel like I'm shifted this year, especially in end of last year, to this place of removing as much as I possibly can rather than trying to add stuff in. And I feel like I become lighter, I become freer because I almost feel there's a level of something bigger than myself, which is, so the more that I release or let go of, the more that I tune into that essence.
Yeah, I love that. And when you were speaking just a moment ago of firefighting and farming, are they real jobs in terms of that's what you're busy doing, or are they metaphors for how you're approaching things?
Oh, it's so firefighting. So over this last year, or just under a year, I've had some healing of this lady. And as we progress, I think she had over 6 to 8 months. And as we progress, so she's one of these spiritual healers. Some people will believe it, some people don't. That's fine. But it's this idea that the more that I, the more that we work through it, the more that she realized that Dragon was trying to connect through me. And so I've started to connect more and more deeply with Dragon energy. And I've actually ran my first retreat last month, helping people to connect to the dragon and being able to utilize their dragon in a way to heal themselves. But the metaphor for the fire service, obviously, it's fire. And what firefighting's taught me is being able to, it taught me how, it's teaching me, or still is teaching me, where I can step into situations which are, for most people, are terrifying. Step into actual burning buildings and being able to regulate my body in a way where I don't get overwhelmed or anxious and allowing myself to be able to cope with these situations. So yeah, regulate my nervous system. But at the same time, it almost feels like fire has always been in my blood in somewhere. So there, I feel like firefighting, there is a kind of metaphor there, but I feel there's also a longing to connect more deeply with fire, but also farming. When you're on the farm, you're in the country, you are around fields, you're around animals. There's a sense of, in some respect, there's a sense of freedom. So maybe farming, thinking about it now, could represent freedom.
And with that comes a lot of responsibility because it needs your attention the entire time. So, yes, you can have the freedom, but it is very much partnered with responsibility. You
Yeah,
can't
and
have one
that's
without the other.
definitely not. And one lesson I've learned lately is I'm being brought up in a farming background kind of thing. I'm a doer. I do. So I'm having to learn the opposite. But when I went on a dancing retreat, I love dancing, and I was helping to set up and crew for that event. But when I give fully, and so I'm learning that I almost burn myself out because I'm over giving. And so there's this realization, this lesson that I'm having to learn this year and end of last year is to come into this place of allowing rather than giving. So it's almost stepping out of the masculine energy of giving and stepping into the feminine energy of being in that place of allowing, that place of receiving, that place of presence. Yeah.
And I love that physicality of dancing and dancing with a partner or dancing alone.
Dancing alone.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
dan-
that's
dancing with
interesting.
a dancing with a partner is my edge. Do you need to explain more on that?
Yeah.
So back in hold on, it was December 2022. I just actually come out of another relationship, December 2022, and I was sick and tired of going for New Year's Eve, the same old rubbish of getting drunk, hangover, feeling terrible next day. And so I looked for where can I go and dance, go on my own, but in a place where you don't feel judged. And so I found ecstatic dance, and it was just where okay, I was terrified. I was literally terrified, but I went, and it was so much fun. And ever since then, ecstatic dance or sober raving has become my new thing. And it's for me, it's that for me, it's freedom. And this is where the freedom comes in again. This idea of being able to tune in with your body and move to the music however you want. And so over the last 4 years, it's given me got the confidence now where I'm one of them dancers now that just go crazy on the dance floor and literally just become I almost channel stuff. I become a channel when I dance and move, and I kind of how can I explain this? It just becomes it's fun. It's just joyful, and I just feel like dancing gives me even though I could be absolutely shattered, it gives me energy, and I just tune in with myself.
I love it. I've never heard of ecstatic dance. It's really cool, and it's something that I would be very up for, being that I never used to enjoy dancing. But since going sober, I have never danced as much as I have now, which is really bizarre because you'd think that when you are drunk, you would have no inhibitions and you would dance, but it's completely the opposite. Now, I love movement and I love expressing myself through that dance. So I'm going to seek out static dance places because that's really cool. Thank you for sharing. So, James, what I'm hearing here is this freedom to explore, that the judgment, the inhibitions have diminished. They might not have disappeared completely, but they're certainly diminishing. The more that you experience and you explore, the more you're willing to venture into different places that you'd never been before.
Yeah. Well, I think just quickly, actually, I was one thing I want to cover just before. So with the dancing partnered, that for me, dancing with somebody else is an edge for me. So I'm great dancing on my own, but as soon as I dance with somebody else, I'm suddenly move out of my body into my head because I'm trying to preempt what that other person is doing, or am I doing something wrong? What can I do now, kind of thing. And at a dance retreat I did recently, one of the girls came across to me and they were dancing, and it's this thing called contact improvisation, where your body is touching the other person's body, but you're kind of tuning in with that other person and almost allowing yourself to move. And for me, even though initially was like, oh, kind of what am I doing here? Now I allowed it and was able to do it for 5, 10 minutes, and it was great fun. And so for me, there's the level of meeting that edge of stepping into more of that kind of stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So when you talk about an edge, you're talking about that sort of where your comfort zone ends and discomfort begins. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah. So my metaphor of that is a cliff. So the edge of a cliff. Quite often, I don't feel safe. I'm not going to run and jump and launch myself straight off the edge of the cliff. I'm going to get to the edge and push that edge out a bit more rather than thinking, okay, let's just go for it. Because otherwise, I feel like sometimes if we bring up the inner child, the inner child could feel very, very unsafe doing that. So almost there's a level of self sabotage. So by meeting the edge, you're in that safe space.
Right. I love it. And this is really interesting because obviously it's linked to fear and it's where you start to feel anxious or maybe overwhelmed. And it's just where you're probably likely to sort of revert to old ways of being and showing up and responding to something. You're on that edge of like, oh, it's a new emotion. I'm a bit fearful, but let's just see where this goes. Yeah, I love it. I'm learning loads of things today, James. I really appreciate it. Every day's a school day, as they say, right?
It.
Yeah. And that's what's so great about the personal development journey is that it is ongoing. You're always learning, you're always undoing or reconnecting to, as you said, to your core self, who to your coming back to home, I think was an expression you used earlier. And yes, that path that we can veer away from, the path that is there is a way that is for us. Each of us has our own route that we can carve out, and there is no set destination. It's an ongoing one. We're never going to get to where that end point is. It's just a constant evolving path that we create.
Yeah, it's a journey, and it's almost like yeah, you're never going to get to the end because where is the end? This is the question, and I see people who think to them, "Am I going to be completely changed in a year?" kind of thing, or "Am I going to be finished in 2 years?" And you're like, they don't have a clue, and it's kind of idea. I've been on it for 9 years, and for me, I got to a point where I my growth has almost gone exponential. But in fact, I would never want it to end because I love doing it. But at the same time, what I've realized this year is that it's also about coming back to our body because we can be on this path of always doing the work, always upgrading, evolving. But sometimes our body needs that time and attention. We need to feed it properly, get enough rest, exercise it, kind of thing. Going back to the basics of being able to ground, because I've noticed with myself, sometimes I can get very much into the airy fairies, into the sky, but it's about coming back to the ground and being grounded in a way that you can take what you've learned and help others. And the only way of doing that is to be grounded and present. So out of your head and into the body.
And be a firefighter, that will keep you present.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Or a farmer, indeed, and both of those. But you talk about airy fairy, and you talk about earlier pulling an angel card, or your belief in that Aquarians like freedom, and you've been on all these retreats. The spiritual journey. Tell me more about how that's linked to your soul purpose.
It is. I feel like it is the sole purpose. I feel like I feel this is going. So we come into this world. I feel, and it's almost like this world here that we live in is like a school. Even the hot, the hard, the easy, they're all challenges, and they're all to help us grow. And actually, I read, where did I see the other day? Oh, a part of a book to do with dragon energy. They talk about house. They talked about in the fire dragon. So there's different dragons. The fire dragon represents purification and renewal, and she talks about how. And she's had a house fire herself. How a house fire is quite often just a representation of part of our life been purified. And we see, obviously it's a horrific thing to go through, but this idea that maybe a lot what's in that house, the items and stuff, just need to be let go of, and we almost need to step into this next level of ourselves. And that's what the spiritual journey, I feel like, it's all about. I think we're all spiritual. We're all spiritual from when we're a child. And I don't like using the term spiritual because it almost feels like I'm spiritual, you're not, kind of thing. But we're all spiritual. Well, this is my opinion, and I feel like the more that we allow ourselves to evolve and grow and to let go, the more that we allow ourselves to come back to our sole purpose, to come back to our home. Because I feel like our home is our heart. And in our heart is where our intuition comes in and our inner guidance and that kind of knowing what to do next. And I think one of the resistance I feel like to the word business is that for me, the word business has connotations that I have to do this marketing, I have to do this plan, I have to do whatever everybody says. But in fact, what if this new other person who's got their own business, but is in that place of allowing stuff to come in, rather than being in that place of trying to force stuff and not allowing stuff to come in, they actually allow stuff to come in, and instead they get incredible new ideas. It almost feels like the word business feels like a very, very like you're stuck. You've got to do it this way, or this way. And there's so many people online trying to coach or be consultants in business or give you business plans, when in fact, all the answers we already have, I feel.
Do you know what the etymology is of business, James?
No.
So I've just checked this. I didn't know this, but I've just looked while you were speaking, and it actually comes from an old English word, and I don't know how you say this, but it's besignes, Bisignes, and it signifies anxiety, care, or trouble. Now, that then went on to evolve to mean the state of being much occupied or engaged. And then then into the 14th century, it began to define one's work, an occupation, or what a person was up to. And then it's evolved into how we now refer to it as being commercial trade and profit-driven activities. But it's so interesting that that root word is anxiety
Hmm.
and care and trouble, isn't it?
Well, the funny thing is, what tuned in with myself then was that in that connotation with how business is to do with anxiousness, what is anxiousness trying to tell us from the word business?
Yeah.
And then how can we reframe that so that it can help us to drive us in a direction of purpose, rather than, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, kind of thing. Almost that stuckness. It feels the word business feels like almost like stuckness.
Yeah, I hear you. I absolutely agree. And there we go. It is maybe at the heart of, and your heart, as you said, is the intuition. Your heart has been telling you to avoid using that word because of its original usage and how it is all around this word of being occupied or sort of anxious.
Mm.
And actually, you want the freedom. And so purpose allows you to have that freedom. James, I feel like we could just continue this conversation forever. It's fantastic. It's so interesting. And thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. How might somebody be able to reach out and connect with you?
So I am actually on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram as James Ainsworth, and obviously I as well have my own podcast, You Matter, I Matter, and so you can find me on Spotify, find me on our podcast, and I've also now got a website, james-ainsworth.com.
Perfect. Well, all those links are in the show notes. So you can find James by one of those, whichever one. And I've been on your podcast. It was a fantastic experience. Thank you so much. How would you like to close out today's episode, James?
Just allow yourself to step into that world of development, personal and spiritual, and to allow yourself to accept every situation as an extension of yourself, so part of who you are. And then from there, rather than seeing it as bad, you can then reframe that, and it will, I reckon, it will help you to align. Rather than hitting head to head, you're going to align with that challenge or whatever's going on, and dance the world away.
That's a wrap for today, but the journey doesn't end here. Share your takeaways, leave a review, or post your insights. Your voice helps others discover the value of these stories. Want to dive deeper into purpose? Check the show notes for ways to work with me. Get a copy of my book or to sign up for Friday Focus, my weekly newsletter packed with clarity and inspiration. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.